If you're watching this video and your resting heart rate is currently below 120 beats per minute, turn this off. You clearly don't have the stamina to be an Atlético Madrid fan. For most people, football is the beautiful game. It's an escape, it's entertainment. But for the red and white half of Madrid, football isn't a sport. It is an untreated medical condition. It is a weekly psychological experiment to see exactly how much hope a human being can inhale before the inevitable choke slam of reality. We are talking about a club whose official identity is literally El Pupas, the jinxed ones. A club that turned suffering into a marketing campaign. A club that lives next door to the rich, handsome, lottery-winning neighbour that is Real Madrid, while they work double shifts at the steel mill just to afford a 1-0 win that took 5 years off their life expectancy. So, grab your defibrillator, park the bus and prepare to suffer. Here is why it sucks to be an Atlético Madrid fan. 1. The cult of suffering. El Pupas lives forever. Let's start with the vibe. If you are an Atleti fan, you don't watch football to be entertained. You watch football to survive. Imagine it's Saturday night. You're playing a team in the relegation zone. A normal big club, your Bayerns, your Man Cities, they go out there, score 3 goals in the first half, and let the academy kids play the last 20 minutes. It's relaxing. It's efficient. But you're Atlético Madrid. You don't do easy. You score a scrappy goal in the 14th minute, probably off a deflection or a set-piece scramble that looked more like a bar fight than a sport. And then, you stop playing. You retreat. You invite pressure like a masochist inviting a kick to the shins. You spend the next 75 minutes clearing the ball, faking injuries, and praying to whatever dark deity Diego Simeone worships. Your heart rate never drops below 140. You win 1-0, but you feel like you just ran a marathon in steel-toed boots. This is the legacy of El Pupas, the jinxed ones. It's a nickname earned in the 70s, but it's practically the club's constitution. The narrative is that Atleti is the unlucky working-class underdog fighting the establishment. And sure, that was cute 20 years ago, but here is the cold, hard reality check. You aren't the underdog anymore. You have one of the highest wage bills in the world. You just spent the summer of 2024 dropping massive bags of cash on Julián Álvarez, Alexander Sørloth and Conor Gallagher. You play in a spaceship of a stadium. You are the establishment. Yet, the fan base still operates with a woe is me mentality that suggests they are scraping pennies together to buy a sandwich. The suffering isn't a bug, it's a feature. When Atleti loses, it's never a boring 2-0 defeat. It's a Shakespearean tragedy. It's conceding in the 93rd minute. It's dominating a game for 89 minutes and losing to a team that hasn't scored a goal since Christmas. Being a fan here means you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, even when you're barefoot. You're addicted to the adrenaline of near-death experiences week in, week out. Being an Atletico fan is like dating an arsonist. Sure, things are exciting and hot, but deep down, you know eventually you're going to wake up and your house will be on fire. And the worst part, you'll probably blame the wind. 2. The Diego Simeone paradox, Stockholm Syndrome in a black suit. Let's address the elephant in the room. The elephant is wearing an all-black designer suit, earns more money than any other manager on the planet, and looks like he's ready to murder a referee with his bare hands. Diego Cholo Simeone. Here is the brutal truth that tears this fan base apart every single season. Simeone is the best thing to ever happen to this club, and simultaneously, the source of your current misery. Here's the paradox. He took a club that was a meme in the mid-2000s and turned them into European heavyweights. He won 2 La Ligas against the Messi-Ronaldo duopoly. He built the stadium, metaphorically speaking. He is the club. But here's where it sucks. You're trapped in a golden cage. Modern football has evolved. It's about pressing, possession, fluid attack, and scoring goals for fun. Simeone's football? It is industrial warfare. It is anti-joy. It is 5-5-0 formations against Manchester City. It is telling world-class creative talents, hey, I know you have magic in your feet, but I need you to track back and tackle the left back for 90 minutes. Every season the board buys him shiny new toys. Look, Cholo, we bought you Julián Álvarez. We bought you João Félix. We bought you pure attackers. And what does Cholo do? He tries to turn them into defensive midfielders. Remember João Félix, the $126 million man? That relationship was like watching a ballerina being forced to work on a construction site. And now, in the 2024-25 season, fans are terrified he's going to do the same to Julián Álvarez. You watch these incredible players look lost, frustrated and exhausted, running 12 kilometers a game without touching the ball in the penalty box. You want to complain? You can't, because he's Cholo. He's a deity. If you criticize him, half the fan base calls you a traitor. Do you remember where we were before him? They scream. Yes, we remember. But we also remember what football is supposed to look like. You're stuck in a toxic marriage where you can't get divorced because the prenup's too expensive. And, to be honest, the sex used to be amazing 10 years ago. Diego Simeone is the highest paid manager in the world to teach a team how to not play football. You're basically paying a Michelin star chef $30 million a year to make you a grilled cheese sandwich. Is it a rock-solid sandwich? Yes. But for that price, I'd like a little truffle oil, or at least a goal from open play. 3. The neighbour from hell, living in Real Madrid's shadow. There are rivalries, and then there is the existence of Atlético Madrid relative to Real Madrid. Usually a rivalry implies a back and forth, a struggle, a balance. But being an Atleti fan means living next door to the guy who wins the lottery every single year while you work double shifts at the factory. It sucks because no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, no matter how much heart and courage you display, Real Madrid is there to ruin it with the power of friendship and vibes. You construct a tactical masterclass, you lead 1-0, you have them on the ropes, and then 92-48. If you know, you know. And if you're an Atleti fan, seeing that timestamp just triggered a PTSD response. Sergio Ramos rises, the header goes in, your soul leaves your body, you lose the Champions League final to your neighbour, then, 2 years later, you do it again. Milan, penalties. One Fran hits the post. You lose the Champions League final to your neighbour again. Do you understand how statistically improbable that is? To lose 2 finals in 3 years to the one team you hate more than anything in the universe? That isn't bad luck, that is cosmic bullying, and it never ends. In 2024 you think, okay, Real Madrid is aging, Modric is old, Kroos is gone, this is our time. What do? They sign Kylian Mbappé and Jude Bellingham. They don't just rebuild, they reload with nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, you're trying to convince yourself that signing a 33-year-old on a free transfer is smart business. The worst part is the narrative. When Atleti wins, it's a gritty upset. When Real Madrid wins, it's destiny. You are the villains in their movie. You exist solely to provide a dramatic hurdle for them to overcome on their way to another trophy. You are the Washington Generals to their Harlem Globetrotters, except you're actually trying to win, which makes it so much sadder. Being an Atleti fan is knowing that if a meteor was heading for Earth, it would hit the Civitas Metropolitano, bounce off, and land in the Santiago Bernabeu trophy cabinet, where they would somehow claim it as their 16th Champions League title. 4. The striker graveyard, where goal scorers go to die. You know that feeling when you buy a high-end gaming PC, top-of-the-line specs, absolute beast of a machine, and then you only use it to play Minesweeper and check your emails? That is exactly what it feels like to be an attacking player signing for Atlético Madrid. If you are a striker, signing for this club is a career decision that screams, I hate scoring goals, but I love cardio. Let's look at the evidence, because the list of casualties is longer than the queue for the bathrooms at halftime. We have to talk about the elephant in the room, the $126 million mistake, João Félix. The kid was the golden boy. He was supposed to be the next Ronaldo. Atleti shattered their transfer record to get him. And what happened? He spent 4 years looking like a teenager who was grounded by his strict dad. He wanted dribble. Simeone wanted him to slide tackle. It was a tactical mismatch so severe it should have been illegal, but he's not alone. Remember Jackson Martinez, a goal machine in Porto, came to Atleti, forgot how to play football and left for China 6 months later. Luciano Vietto, flop. Mateus Cunha, sold. Kevin Gamero, meh. It sucks to be a fan because you get hyped every summer. The 2024 window was massive. We got Julián Álvarez, the Spider, a World Cup winner. And deep down, behind the excitement, there is a tiny, terrifying voice in your head whispering, how long until Cholo turns him into a defensive midfielder? You watch these players arrive with smiles, talking about passion and history. 6 months later, they are isolated 40 yards from the goal chasing shadows, looking at the bench with dead eyes. The system demands that strikers defend first and score second. It's like hiring Picasso to paint your house, but telling him he's only allowed to paint the skirting boards, and he has to use a toothbrush. And sure, sometimes it works. Falcao was a god. Diego Costa was a beast. Luis Suarez gave you a league title on one leg, but those are the exceptions. The rule is that you will spend $80 million on a player just to watch him finish the season, with 6 goals and 4 yellow cards for arguing with the referee. Atleti is where creativity goes to do burpees. You don't sign here to win the Golden Boot. You sign here to win the most distance covered metric and maybe, if you're lucky, develop a mild hatred for the sport of football. 5. The Civil War, fans versus the board, the battle for the badge. If the football on the pitch is stressful, the politics off the pitch are a full-blown soap opera written by a drunk screenwriter. Being an Atleti fan means you're constantly fighting a two-front war, one against the opposition and one against your own owners. Let's talk about the Gil family. The club has been under the control of the Gil family and Enrique Cerezo for decades. It started with the late Jesus Gil, a man who was equal parts corrupt mayor, reality TV star and club president. He once shut down the youth academy to save money, accidentally letting a young Raul Gonzalez walk away to Real Madrid. Yes, that actually happened. Your owners are responsible for gifting your biggest rival their greatest modern legend. But the modern misery is more subtle. It's about identity. In 2017, the board decided to modernise the club. They moved you from the beloved crumbling cauldron of the Vicente Calderón to the shiny corporate Civitas Metropolitano. And then, they committed the cardinal sin. They changed the badge. They took the historic crest, rounded it off, made the bear look like he was on a diet and flipped the strawberry tree. Why? Marketing, global branding, to sell t-shirts in Idaho and Shanghai. For years, the fan base didn't just complain, they went to war. El escudo no se toca, the badge is untouchable, wasn't just a hashtag, it was a way of life. Imagine cheering for a team while actively hating the logo on their chest. It creates this weird cognitive dissonance where you love the players but want to sue the institution. Now, credit where it's due, in 2024, after a massive fan vote, the club actually reverted to the old badge. A victory. But it sucks that you had to fight for 7 years just to convince your own club to respect its own history. It highlights the fundamental disconnect. The fans see Atleti as a religion. The board sees it as a content production company that happens to play soccer. You're constantly reminded that you are a customer, not a member. You pay some of the highest ticket prices in Spain to watch Cholismo, and the people running the show are more concerned with maximising corporate box revenue than ensuring the atmosphere isn't sterilised. Supporting this club's administration is like thanking a burglar for giving you your wallet back after he emptied the cash. Yes, we got the badge back, but we haven't forgotten who stole it in the first place. 6. The roller coaster of hope. It's the hope that kills you. There is a specific kind of misery reserved for teams that are almost great. If you support a mid-table team, you have low expectations. You win a game, great. You lose, whatever. But Atlético Madrid sits in the uncanny valley of success. You're good enough to dream, but cursed enough to fail in the most heartbreaking way possible. The misery cycle goes like this. The hype. The season starts. The squad looks deep. Real Madrid and Barcelona look vulnerable. You think, this is the year. We're winning the league. We're taking the Champions League. The reality check. You lose 2-0 to a team like Cadiz or Alaves away from home. You look lethargic. The doubts creep in. The Cholismo resurgence. Suddenly you go on a run. You beat a giant in the Champions League. You knock out Liverpool or Inter Milan in a penalty shootout that takes 5 years off your life expectancy. The hope returns. You are the kings of chaos. The collapse. Then comes the quarter-final or semi-final against a team like Borussia Dortmund 2024. You are leading, you are in control, and then, in the span of 10 minutes, you forget how to defend. You collapse. You lose. This hurts significantly more than just being bad. It's the teasing. Atleti is the master of foreplay with no payoff. They drag you to the edge of glory, show you the view, and then shove you off the cliff. Look at the 2023-24 season. You played some of the best football in Europe at home. The Metropolitano was a fortress. Griezmann was playing like a wizard, and you walked away with nothing. No Copa del Rey, no Super Cup, no League, no Champions League. Just a participation trophy for vibes, and a hefty bill for Julián Álvarez to fix it next year. It sucks because you can't check out. You can't turn the TV off because you know they might do a miracle. They hold your attention hostage. You are constantly stuck in maybe this time it's different mode, even though history has a 50-year track record of screaming, it is definitely not different. Being an Atleti fan is getting into a taxi, telling the driver to take you to the airport and having him drive you around the block for 3 hours before dropping you off back at your house and charging you $500. And the worst part, you'll call the same taxi next week. 7. Public enemy number 1, the anti-football allegations. If the internal suffering wasn't enough, there is the external shame. Being an Atlético Madrid fan means constantly having to apologise for the way your team exists. To the rest of the world, Atlético Madrid is not a football club. It is a crime against the sport. You turn on the TV to listen to pundits, and what do you hear? Jurgen Klopp crying that he hates playing against you because they don't play proper football. You hear Pep Guardiola politely describing your 5-5-0 formation as prehistoric. You hear Xavi Hernandez talking about the purity of the grass while your team is busy digging trenches in it. It sucks because you become the villain by default. You are the anti-football brigade. While the rest of the world is obsessing over tiki-taka, gegenpressing and inverted fullbacks, Atleti is obsessing over tactical fouls, time-wasting and shithousery. Remember the Champions League tie against Manchester City in 2022? It wasn't a match. It was a bar fight that happened to break out on a grassy field. Stefan Savic dragging Phil Foden off the pitch like a sack of potatoes, pulling Jack Grealish's hair. It was embarrassing. But as a fan, you have to defend it. You have to go on Twitter and tweet, "Actually, Savic was just checking his scalp for dandruff, it's a sign of respect." You spend half your life arguing that defence is an art form, but deep down, even you are tired of it. You watch other teams string together 20 passes and score a beautiful team goal, and you get jealous. Meanwhile, your highlight of the month is Jose Maria Giménez blocking a shot with his face and celebrating it like he just won the lottery. It's isolating. When you win, neutrals don't say, "Wow, what a performance." They say, "Football lost today." You are the Grinch of the European game. You don't want to win, you just want to make sure the other team has a miserable afternoon. And sure, the saltiness of rival fans is delicious, but sometimes, just sometimes, it would be nice to be the team that people actually like watching. Supporting Atleti is like bringing a feral badger to a dog show. Everyone else has these well-groomed poodles doing tricks, and you're just standing there holding a leash attached to a ball of rage screaming, "Look at his passion, he's got heart," while he bites the judge's ankle. 8. The financial almost. Rich enough to care, poor enough to lose. Here is the cruelest economic reality of being a Colchonero. You're not a poor club. Let's be clear, you're in the top 15 richest clubs in the world. You have a shiny stadium, a massive sponsorship deal, and you pay your manager a GDP-sized salary. But in the ecosystem of elite football, you are the poorest rich kid at the private school. It sucks because you are constantly told you have to compete with Manchester City, PSG and Real Madrid, but you are operating with a handicap. When they make a mistake, they just buy another player. When Real Madrid wasted money on Eden Hazard, it didn't matter. They just won the Champions League anyway. When Atleti makes a mistake, it cripples the club for 3 years. You have to sell to survive. You're a selling club dressed in designer clothes. You fall in love with Rodri, gone to City, you love Lucas Hernandez, gone to Bayern, you love Thomas Partey, gone to Arsenal. Even Antoine Griezmann, your prodigal son, left you for Barcelona, failed, and then came back like an ex who realised the grass wasn't greener, and you took him back. Because you had to. This financial reality creates a permanent ceiling. You're constantly hitting your head against the glass roof of oil money and state-backed clubs. You do everything right, scouting, development, tactics, and you still lose because the other guy can afford to keep Erling Haaland on the payroll. The 2024 transfer window felt different, spending big on Álvarez and Gallagher. But the anxiety remains. You know that if this gamble fails, if these big signings don't deliver a major trophy, the liquidation sale is coming. You're walking a tightrope over a pit of financial ruin while your rivals are walking on a solid gold bridge. Being an Atleti fan is going to a casino with your rent money, sitting at the high roller table and sweating through your shirt while the guy next to you is betting chips made of actual diamonds just for a laugh. 9. Why we stay. The addiction to the struggle. So, let's review. Your style of play is often compared to dental surgery. Your manager is a cult leader who demands absolute suffering. Your neighbours are the most successful team in the history of the sport, and they mock you relentlessly. Your strikers forget how to score the moment they put on the shirt, and your heart has been broken in Lisbon, in Milan, and in every stoppage-time disaster since 1974. Why? Why does anyone do this? Why not just buy a Real Madrid shirt and be happy? Because, and this is the sick part, the suffering is the point. Being an Atletico Madrid fan isn't about winning. Winning is a byproduct. Being an Atleti fan is about feeling. It's about the belief that things that are hard to get are worth more. When Real Madrid wins a trophy, it's a Tuesday. When Atletico Madrid wins a trophy, it is a religious experience. It is the release of decades of pent-up trauma exploding into pure, unadulterated ecstasy. You stay because of coraje y corazón, courage and heart. You stay because you identify with the struggle. You stay because you believe that fighting against the odds, even when you lose, is more noble than winning with a cheat code. But let's be honest. Mostly you stay because you're trapped. You're too deep in. You've invested too much emotional capital to walk away now. You're waiting for that one moment, that one league title, that one Champions League, that will justify all the ulcers, the high blood pressure, and the grey hairs. Will it happen? Probably not. Will you be there next Sunday screaming at the TV because Axel Witsel lost a foot race? Absolutely. So yeah, supporting Atletico Madrid is basically a voluntary stress test for your cardiovascular system. But hey, if you didn't enjoy the pain, you wouldn't be here. Subscribe for more misery. I mean, football content.